Oh boy, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Respectful Conversation. It's me, your host, Katie Muse, coming to you live from my closet. Um, Today I'm very excited to have a very special guest, my childhood friend.
Hi guys, I'm Sophia.
So I'm super excited for today because we're going to be talking about empathy. Sophia chose the topic of empathy, and honestly, based off past episodes of this podcast, I was kind of like, it's only a matter of time until I do an entire episode on empathy, and I'm glad that Sophia picked it. So, Sophia, why empathy? Why did you choose empathy as your topic?
So empathy is like something like that's kind of really near and dear to my heart, I guess. I like it wasn't until recently that like I've really started to like understand the importance of empathy and like how to just be good at it, and like it's not something that we're born with, like it's something that takes work and effort. And yeah.
I've come probably from the perspective of thinking that we do all have it, but it's similar to stuff that I've talked about before on the podcast about like intuition, where it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. Because of course there's empathy, and then there are empathy's cousins, sympathy and apathy. um, and it's we want to try. I think we can all agree as human beings that we want to try to like not deal with apathy, maybe. Like we don't want to be apathetic people. Um, but what about sympathy? I get confused sometimes about the difference between empathy and sympathy. What does that feel like to you, Sophia?
I think like sympathy has its time and place. I feel like sympathy is much more like I like I'm not fully in your shoes, but like I sympathize with how you're feeling. Like I understand like that you're upset, but like I don't really know what it's like to be upset in that way, or haven't tried to figure out what it's like to be upset in that way. But it's more like feeling for the emotion, I feel like, and not necessarily for like the situation. Where like empathy, you'd like put yourself more in the other person's situation to like truly understand like where the emotions are coming from, kind of deal.
Right. I always think of that, of it being like that too, of putting myself in someone else's shoes. Like that's like just trying to literally put yourself in the perspective of someone else and whatever they're going through. Um, that's empathy to me. I think I too, I don't know about you, but I over time have even gotten like, I don't know what the word is, had like slight disdain maybe for sympathy, in feeling that like it's not like if you're sympathizing, you're not trying hard enough. Like I think, and that's just because like empathy kind of consumed my life at one point.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I don't know. When really sympathy is honestly probably a pretty healthy thing too. But empathy, I think, really would, as I'm sure you would agree, would help all of us if we could like empathize with each other more.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing with sympathy too is I feel like a lot of times in like movies and TV shows, people are like, I don't want your sympathy. Don't look at me like that. Like, I don't want your sympathy. So, like, we've always associated it with something bad when, like, realistically, like, it's not bad. Like, you're still trying to come to like some form of understanding
Right.
about the other person. It's just like not as intense as like empathy is, which like they both have their place depending on like what your emotional state is and like what the other person's emotional state is. So I think they're both chef's kiss. They're both beautiful.
Chef's kiss. Yeah. You said empathy has become more prevalent in your life recently. Why, may I ask why or how?
Good, honestly, like good at like I always thought that I had really good empathy skills.
Mm-hmm.
And a few months ago, I like had a professor who was like, none of us like really have good empathy skills. He was like, you just have to work on it. He's like, you can't pretend to have it. He's like, that's not how you're gonna get it. Um, and it was like through that that I kind of like started to reevaluate myself, and like especially with like what's going on in like
Yeah.
society, just like I feel like empathy recently has like really helped me to like explain like the ways in which like people are acting. So like if somebody is doing something, I'm like, okay, like why are they acting like this? And like kind of using empathy to like solve the root of the problem instead of like using empathy to like just kind of like say that like it's okay that they're doing that because so and so went through this, but like realistically it's like, well, they went through that and I'm empathizing with it, but how can I help use my empathy to try and like fix it or like make things better for them?
Right, totally. I view empathy in the same way of it really being, it's so easy to just get mad at people and to be like, I disagree with your opinion, so screw you, you're an awful person. Instead of being like, why does that person believe that? Why did that person do that thing? What past experiences always like influence people's actions way more than we think they do, and just like ways that the brain has learned life works and supposedly like happens to people, when really it's just like, it's just the brain doing that. Like the brain's like, this is how my life works and it stinks and it's unfair and this is how people treat me. And it's like, no, we've all got our own like programming from like our life experiences that influence how we treat other people. It's like, it's such a, it's, and it sounds like a monster of a thing to learn, I feel like, to be like, because also too, I would assume people would make the argument that it's maybe not healthy, like you need to disagree with people. And it's like, that's not what we're saying. Like disagreeing with people is completely valid. Because empathy, to the point I've learned of to the point of ignoring your own emotions because you're like, oh well, that person probably like been through some shit. That's not healthy either. Boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries are honestly key. They're like everything you need. And I think like that's the thing too, is like with like empathy and like caring in general, like you're taught that in order to be like, a lot of people shy away from them because you're taught that in order to be good at them, you have to give all of yourself and like kind of lose yourself in order to like be good at them and like be really caring or be really empathetic. And like that's not the case. Like I like think that we should be looking out for ourselves. Like we should be showing people the same like compassion and like care and kindness. Like we should be showing it to ourselves in the same way that we show it to them. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just so hard sometimes. But I found that empathy just like really can like rock, like having good empathy skills can really like rock a conversation. And like just like somebody says something to you and it's like, oh, are you saying it because of this? And you like bring up the area and like people like stop and like think about it and just really explain like what's going on in their lives. And then like in that way, like you get to learn so much more about them.
Do you consider yourself an empath?
I so I don't really know. I don't like, I haven't looked too much into it. I just kind of like consider myself to be like bebopping around, like just trying to like help people understand how they're feeling and like trying to understand them better. I think people are so interesting.
Then do you consider yourself the therapist friend?
Um, Recently, like in the past couple of weeks, I definitely have been bad at being the therapist friend. Haven't been a good one. But like normally I do like, I like to listen to like what like friends say and like try to understand where they're coming from and be like, okay,
Right.
let's break it down. Like
Yeah, okay. So I consider myself both of these things, and I consider them connected, hence why I asked. You know, the golden rule type deal of like treating others how you want to be treated, that's another great like lesson of empathy. Um, and like loving others how you want to be loved. And I know that like for me, I really just want to be understood like real bad, like in the sense of like I feel a lot like I'm very emotional, I'm sensitive, and it makes me feel best when I feel listened to and feel like someone else is empathizing with me. And I assume that that's because typically I am the therapist friend and I will listen to someone else and be like, okay, what's the, do you think that's from that thing from like your childhood, like
yeah.
what do you think it's that thing from your past, like so I try to do that with myself, uh
Mhm.
which goes back to your point of like, you know, empathizing with yourself as much as you empathize with other people. But I think like we all really just want to be understood.
Honestly, I feel like life goes so fast and like sometimes like people just don't take the time to like sit down and like try and understand others and like that's where a lot of problems come from. I definitely agree. It's like so hard too because like we're kind of like we live in a society where like we're kind of not taught to like empathize with others. Like when you're little, you're taught to be kind and nice, but then like as you get older, people are like, you shouldn't help that person. Like it's not good for them, or like it's like or like you're taught like it's weak to like ask for somebody to sympathize with you or like try to understand you or like to go against like your own beliefs to try and like better understand someone else. Like we're just taught to be like so like hard headed, honestly, and like so like stuck in our ways and we kind of like forget to like just stop and like try and understand like the people around us.
We're definitely in a society where like emotions aren't encouraged, and definitely not nurtured in any way. And that's really, I think, the like call to action from people like you who will be like, empathy is really important and more important now than ever. Like I wonder how much actual like healing could happen on the like across the board, like across the planet, if like we all, even just half of the population, like really started to just empathize with the sides that they disagree with. Because
Yeah.
honestly too, that can be healing for you to be like, oh, like that's what that side thinks. Like they're not awful people, they're not an awful person. It's just that that's why they believe what they believe.
Healing on both ends. It does have like a lot of healing, especially when you're like, I know why you're acting like that. And I'm not going to excuse it. But now that I know, like, I'm going to act differently when like you say something to me about it or like
Right.
when you like do this action, like I am definitely going to act differently when I see it. And I'm definitely going to like call you out in a different way that I think would be more productive than like talking to you in the way that I was before when like I didn't understand your point of view.
Sweet. Have you ever had an instance when someone's empathized with you and it like made you feel good?
Yeah, so actually last night,
Oh,
and like I had like a friend from school who like sat me down and I was like, I feel like I'm being like too much. And she was like, maybe just a little bit, but like at the same time, she's like, we have to bring it back. She was like, you have to like understand that like what you're doing is right. And honestly, Katie, like you empathize with me so much, like every time we talk. So
oh.
yeah, like Katie gets me, like it's all good. Fun, funky, fresh.
And like ditto for you. That's what I love. Like again, we talked about this last time we got to see each other in person about how like we've been friends for so long and we don't get to see each other in person a whole lot even before a pandemic. And but whenever we do get together, we just like pick up where we left off because we'll just be like, man, I'm not incredibly like present in your life, and I'm not like we never went to school together, like, but it would still be like, I'll sit and I'll listen to your stories and be like, oh man, that sucks, or like, we still get what each other's going through even though we're not like actively like a part of it, which is cool. That's a special thing.
It's like when the two therapist friends like go to dinner.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. um Especially too because I feel like I talked about this in another episode too about how a lot of relationships and friendships can be based off of like negativity and um like complaining about things that are going on like in their like collective experience with like people or like work or school or whatever. And so it's, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. This is a nice example of like, yeah, you could just be like, just catch up as gal pals. Sweet. I have books here. The Empath Survival Guide, Life Strategies for Sensitive People by Judith Orloff, MD. And then the other one is a journal she made based off of the same book. Um, and so I don't know. I thought maybe we could just flip through and see if there are any like questions we can answer. Maybe you can know officially if you're an empath or not.
Yeah, we can like figure that out. Oh my gosh.
Actually, yeah, let's do that. She has a quiz. Disclaimer too, if you're listening or watching and you're gonna, answer the questions too and quiz to see if you're an empath, it's not bad if you aren't. Like that's not I am of the belief that some people are just born super sensitive to other people's feelings, and going back to what I said of like how helpful it would be if even half the population just like tried to empathize with each other, like that's why I think empaths are here to like help us heal as humans. You could use the experience to learn how to empathize with empaths. Boom. Let's see, self-assessment. Are you an empath? To find out, take the following empath self-assessment, answering mostly yes or mostly no to each question. So that's how we're answering. Either mostly yes or mostly no. Okay. Have I ever been labeled overly sensitive, shy, or introverted?
Yes, mainly like shy and like occasionally like introverted, which like surprises me because I'm normally like very extroverted, but I think
Yeah.
it's like a comfort thing. If I'm comfortable, I'm like off the walls, like crazy. And then if I'm like not comfortable, I'm like really shy, quiet, like don't talk to me. Like,
Yeah, I get that. Totally. Okay, so that's one mostly yes. Next question is, do I frequently get overwhelmed or anxious?
oh yeah, definitely.
Same, ditto. Do arguments and yelling make me ill?
Yes, they make me so nervous. I like get really nervous during arguments.
Amen, me too. I hate conflict. Um, do I often feel like I don't fit in?
I'm kind of like in the middle for that because like sometimes I feel like I fit in better than like in other places, but I'm definitely not like a person who like universally like fits in everywhere.
Ooh, I feel that. Okay. Do crowds drain me and do I need alone time to revive myself?
Oh, I like definitely need alone time to revive myself. Big like I feel like that's a big like cancer emotion, like cancer a lot of times like that's me, like I'm a cancer, like I need my space, I need my time.
Amen to that. Um, do noise, odors, or nonstop talkers overwhelm me?
Honestly, no. I kind of like it when it's loud. I feel like I can concentrate better when like there's a lot of noise in the back.
Mm.
And I like love nonstop talkers because I'm like sometimes I don't have to like fill in the blanks. Like they can just keep going, and I'm like, okay, like I can just like sit back and like listen and like be quiet.
Do I have chemical sensitivities or low tolerance for scratchy clothes?
Actually, yeah, I do have a low tolerance for scratchy clothes and like
Mm.
tags. I have to like rip the tags off.
Oh yeah. Do I prefer taking my own car to places so that I can leave early if I need to?
Oh yeah, I always have an escape route, an escape plan, like a way to get out if I need to, like just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do I overeat to cope with stress?
Honestly, sometimes I do. I eat like sometimes if I like find myself really stressed, I'm like, oh, like you know what I could really go for right now? Like chicken nuggets. I'm like,
Right.
thank you. Yeah.
Totally. I like looked into. I have this pasta that I make. It's literally just like Alfredo pasta, and I make
Uh-huh.
it for dinner whenever I'm like having a day and I'm really upset. And I will
Yeah.
eat more of it than I need to, and more of it than my stomach wants.
But
So,
sometimes like the soul needs it. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Like
exactly.
deep down, like she needs some help.
Am I afraid of becoming suffocated by intimate relationships? Ooh,
Oh
tea.
my gosh. It's like a hard, honestly, kinda. Like I'm scared about like changing myself and like losing too much of myself to like someone else. Oh my gosh.
Been there. Do I startle easily?
Oh yeah. I'm like really easy to scare. It's not hard.
Do I react strongly to caffeine or medications?
Um, Caffeine, yes. Caffeine, I'm like off the walls. Like if I drink too much, I'm like shaking, like
Yeah,
bouncing
I
around, like I have to walk.
ditto. Um, do I have a low threshold for pain?
No, I actually have a high pain tolerance. It's like one of my proudest like achievements. Like
Yeah, love that for you. Um, do I tend to socially isolate? Yeah, I know about this one for you. I know I do.
sometimes it depends on like the situation. If I like am out and I like it gets to be too much and like I've missed like my time to leave, I start to feel like I'm like upsetting people. So then I'm like, okay, like I have to isolate, like I can't see anybody for a little bit, like I have to just back up and like I'll like hang out with them like 3 days from now or like next week, but like they need a break from me and like I can need a break from them. So I like
Yeah.
cut it loose a little.
Do I absorb other people's stress, emotions, or symptoms? Because that's the
Um,
type of empath you can be too, is like a physical empath of like if someone's like bangs their right elbow on the wall, then like you might feel it or something.
Not like symptoms. I definitely think like emotions and like stress. Like sometimes if I see other people crying, like I'll cry right back or like
Oh,
stress is like a big one. If someone's stressed about something, like it's go time. Like we're going. We're all stressed.
we're all stressed here. Am I overwhelmed by multitasking, and do I prefer to do one thing at a time?
I love to multitask. I love to just like start an assignment and then like move on to another one before the other one's finished. I love to like beep up around.
So mostly no for that one. Do I replenish myself in nature?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely have been feeling like a strong connection to nature recently. Like,
Okay.
so
You should
yeah,
listen to my episode with Steven. Yeah, that one was all about travel and stuff, and he was saying the same thing about how the pandemic's made him more connected with nature and stuff. Do I need a long time to recuperate after being with difficult people or energy vampires?
I think I need like time from like the person who's like difficult to deal with. Like I'll just take like a break from them for a little bit, but I'll definitely still go see like other people and stuff.
Do I feel better in small cities or the country rather than large cities?
Honestly, I like think I feel better in like the large city. I love the chaos. Like I really like big chaotic energy. Love big chaos vibes. So if the country was chaotic, I think I'd feel pretty good there. So
Okay, so mostly no for that one. Um, do I prefer, this is the last one, do I prefer one-to-one interactions and small groups to large gatherings?
yeah, definitely one to one and like small. I definitely like that better.
Amen. That's the whole premise of this podcast. Okay, now it says now calculate your results. I lost track of how many you said yes to. Um, but for those of you at home, it said if you answered yes to 1 to 5 questions, you're at least a partial empath. If you answered yes to 6 to 10 questions, you have moderate empath tendencies. If you answered yes to 11 to 15 questions, you have strong empath tendencies. And if you answered yes to more than 15, you are a full-blown empath. So yeah, I'd say you would probably like strong empath tendencies.
Let's go.
So yeah, there's that quiz. I hope that clarified some things for some people. That's the empath experience, is just being a sensitive person. Um, and so that's the thing too, like we were saying, of like emotions not being encouraged in our society necessarily. Like sensitivity's never really been encouraged. And it's tricky too, because that's typically a feminine trait.
Gender norms.
Gender norms. I saw a lot of stuff recently that points out that like guys like with toxic masculinity kind of stuff and like masculinity is that like guys aren't supposed to be emotional, and that's like the pressure. But like guys are can express anger, and anger is like a super emotional emotion, I've learned recently.
Honestly, like I feel like sometimes it seems really unattainable. Like when I was first like just trying to get better at it. Anger definitely came up a lot. I would definitely like people would say things to me and I'd be mad, like big time. And then I was like started to just like work on it more and like be like, okay, why am I mad? Like, why are they acting like this? Like trying to understand myself better and them better. Like it definitely helps. Like honestly, just like trying your best at it, like that's all I can say to do is like you don't have to be great at it. Like you don't have to do it all the time. Like nobody does it all the time.
Okay.
Like it's so hard to do and like it's like so draining. So like don't drain yourself. Like take time for yourself, like some self-care, like know what you like and like know what you want to do for yourself and like keep it going, you
Right.
know?
Like I started this saying like, we don't want apathy, but that's not completely fair because, no matter what, apathy, sympathy, and empathy are all human emotions. And so you're gonna feel, naturally you're gonna feel those other two. Even if you answered yes to all of those questions that I just asked, like, you're still gonna have moments when you're gonna get mad or you're gonna hate people. And I heard one time from a spiritual teacher that I follow, Teal Swan. She said that hate is really just wanting, like, the person you're hating to understand your perspective. Empathy. Um, so it all comes back to that. We all just want to be understood. That goes with one of the beliefs I've talked about before, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, of like the belief that we're all kind of like one and we're all like connected somehow. And so I've felt like a lot like empathy is a big part of that, of rekindling that natural connection we all have to each other, because I mean we are all one human race and species.
I definitely think that it's like so easy to be like, oh, like my way's right, and like this is right from this way because it's like what I grew up with, and like, yeah, it's hard to get back to that. That like at the end of the day, like we're all just bags of flesh. It's bopping around. Like I don't like even know. Like it's so hard. Like when people like try to act like people are like lesser than them because they do certain things. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, what's going on? So,
Moral of the story is that we've all got shit going on, and
yeah,
we're all feeling a lot, probably.
yeah.
Some of us suppress it more than others, and there's even reason behind that. Do you have any plugs? Do you have anything you want to plug?
Honestly, listen, if any of you are currently watching, this is gonna be so weird, Naruto, follow me at Sophia and DM me and we can talk about it because I'm watching it and nobody I know is watching it. And I just really want to talk to somebody about it. So SOPHADOPH.
Go follow Sophia to talk about Naruto.
Yeah, anything you want, honestly, anything. Yeah, anything you want to talk about, honestly.
Sweet. Oh, and then too, this podcast is on SoundCloud currently, every Sunday at noon. So, keep checking it. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Sophia, for being here. Of course, I'm so glad that I finally got to have you on. Because my intuition just tells me who I want. I was like, Sophia. So it was awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Bye.